14 years ago, Bali's most handsome prince, Gus, married a commoner, the famous Indonesian actress Happy Salma.
Nervous for my wedding. Excited too.
How does a trip with one's mother to a foreign land lead to meeting one's prince charming? Well, that's the story of Jane Gillespie, an Australian kindergarten teacher. She went on a vacation and fell in love with a Balinese prince, and what started as a holiday turned into a royal romance. How did she embrace her new identity and new life within Bali's royal family? This is an extraordinary story of how love turns an ordinary woman into a princess. The holiday that changed everything. Jane Gillespie was born and raised in Australia, where she grew up in a modest working-class family. From a young age, she developed a love for storytelling and arts. Her upbringing was shaped by Western ideals of independence and self-expression. But she had a curiosity for other different cultures. The 23-year-old kindergarten teacher from Sydney, with a degree in child psychology, was living a comfortable life with her family in Australia. Although Jane had always dreamed of a life far away from home, she had not imagined that one day she will go on a journey, and that will be the first step she takes to becoming a princess of the Balinese kingdom. In 1977, Jane Gillespie traveled to Bali with her mother for a holiday, seeking a serene adventure beyond their everyday routine life in Sydney. Jane had always wanted to leave the confines of her city, and she finally got the opportunity to live out her dream. Little did she know that this holiday was going to change her life forever. At the time, Jane was living a normal and predictable life. She didn't have much going on with her while she worked as a kindergarten teacher. She loved her job and has always been drawn to exploring new experiences and cultures. Her mother, who shared a similar adventurous spirit, suggested a trip to Bali, a place known for its natural beauty, rich traditions, and warm hospitality. That was how Jane and her mother left Australia for a mother and daughter getaway. Bali in the 1970s was very different from the bustling tourist destination it is today. It was still relatively untouched by mass tourism, with its village retaining deep cultural roots, traditional temples, and royal palaces that stood as a symbol of its rich history. For Jane and her mother, it was an opportunity to step outside the wall of Australia, far away from its modernity, and enjoy a space with something completely different. Upon their arrival in Bali, Jane and her mother made their way to Ubud, a cultural and artistic hub in the heart of the island. They checked into Puri Saraswati bungalows, which were part of the royal palace grounds. The accommodation style was simple, but deeply connected to Balinese traditions. It was surrounded by lush gardens, ornate carvings, and the peaceful ambiance of temple courtyards. From the moment they arrived, Jane immediately felt a deep and immediate connection to Ubud. The slow pace of life, the kindness of the people, and the deep spirituality intertwined in their everyday activities fascinated her. She and her mother would spend long hours exploring the local markets, visiting the temples, and attending traditional dance performances. Needless to say, Jane was excited and thrilled. Each moment deepened her appreciation for the island's unique way of life. It was during her vacation time at Puri Saraswati bungalows that Jane first encountered Prince Chokorda Raka Kirtiasa, who is a member of the Ubud royal family. Unlike the usual image of a distant and formal royal figure, Prince Raka was friendly, approachable, and passionate about his culture. These qualities drew Jane to him, and they formed the basis of her love for him. Prince Raka was actively involved in Ubud's artistic community, particularly in the children's theater group, which immediately caught Jane's interest given her experience in education. They had a light and friendly conversation, which built an undeniable connection. They shared valid discussions about their passions, cultures, and other personal experiences, finding common ground despite their vastly different upbringings. As their holiday came to an end, Jane and her mother bid farewell to Bali and returned to Australia. Although communication was not easy, Jane and Prince Raka kept in touch through letters. You might because, at the time, Ubud had no telephones, even within the royal palace, reducing their mode of communication solely to written words. For Jane, that was the best holiday she had had in a long while, and, more importantly, Her meeting with Prince Raka had left a deep impression on her. Although she was now back to her everyday life, she found herself constantly thinking about the island and longing once again for the serene environment of Bali and the warmth she had received from its people. As the months passed, Jane began to feel a sense of dissatisfaction with her routine life in Australia. The more she thought about it, the clearer it became that she needed to return to Bali, but she also did not want to abandon her life there in Australia. Unknown to her, this vacation was not just an escape from her daily reality, as she had thought, but the beginning of a love story. Unable to ignore her growing feelings for Prince Raka, Jane finally makes a bold decision. She resigned from her teaching job and returned to Bali for a 3-month stay, hoping to write a children's book. On the surface, her reason for returning was to work on a children's book inspired by the stories and culture she had encountered in Ubud. However, deep within her, she knew she was just following her intuition. She had been drawn to the possibility of a life with Prince Raka. Her decision to leave Sydney wasn't an easy one. She was stepping into the unknown and was unsure of what fate holds for her in the country of Bali. But love got the better of her, and she went back to Bali. The news of her return quickly spread on her arrival back in Ubud, and it didn't take long for Prince Raka to hear about it. He wasted no time in going over to welcome her. Their reunion was filled with joy and emotion, as if they were not just miles away from each other some months back. It was an overwhelming sight to behold, and everyone who witnessed it could tell that both of them were in love. Unlike their initial meeting, where uncertainty still lingered, this time there was clarity. They both validated their feelings for each other and knew that their connection was real. Their friendship quickly evolved into something more meaningful. With Jane now in Bali for an extended stay, they had the opportunity to truly explore their relationship to a greater end. As days turned into weeks, Jane and Prince Raka were seen spending more valued time together while also learning to grow closer with each passing moment. They shared every part of themselves and became each other's confidants. They spent time getting to know about their dreams, their cultures, and what it would take for Jane to migrate into Balinese royal life. The Balinese Empire. Bali is an island in Indonesia renowned for its rich history, deep spiritual traditions, and vibrant cultural heritage. The Balinese civilization has dramatically evolved over centuries, shaped by Hindu-Buddhist influence, indigenous customs, and foreign interactions. From the founding of the Balinese kingdom to the modern preservation of its traditions, Bali remains a unique and spiritually profound society. Bali's history goes back to the prehistoric era, which bloomed with early settlers arriving from mainland Southeast Asia. However, the island's transformation into a structured society began with the arrival of Indian traders and priests around the 1st century. These interactions introduced Hindu and Buddhist philosophers, who heavily influenced Balinese society. By the 9th century, Bali had developed into a Hindu-Buddhist kingdom with inscriptions in Old Balinese and Sanskrit found in the origin. One of the earliest known Balinese rulers was Sri Kesari Warmadewa, a king from the Warmadewa dynasty who ruled in the 10th century. His successors continued to expand the kingdom by developing intricate irrigation systems known as subak, which allowed for the cultivation of rice, which is the staple food of the Balinese people. The Balinese kingdom flourished under the influence of King Udayana and his wife, Mahe, a Javanese princess from the powerful Medang kingdom. Their son, Airlangga, would later become a legendary king in East Java, further strengthening ties between Bali and Java. The most significant turning point in Balinese history occurred in the 14th century. Bali came under the influence of the Majapahit Empire, a powerful Hindu kingdom based in Java. In 1343, Majapahit forces led by Gajah Mada conquered Bali and established a new ruling dynasty. Many Javanese nobles, artists, and priests migrated to Bali, bringing with them advanced knowledge in administration, arts, literature, and Hindu rituals. As the Majapahit Empire declined in the 15th century, many Javanese Hindus fled to Bali to escape the rise of Islam in Java. This migration helped solidify Bali as the last stronghold of Hindu culture in Indonesia. Balinese society is traditionally hierarchical, with the king, popularly called Raja, serving as the highest authority. Although they no longer hold political power, Bali's royal families play a significant role in the cultural preservation of their community. Unlike the rest of Indonesia, which is predominantly Muslim, Bali remains a Hindu practicing nation. Balinese Hinduism blends Hindu traditions from India with indigenous animist beliefs and ancestor worship. Relationship and marriage. Prince Raka, despite being a member and the head of the Ubud royal family, was never driven by wealth or power. His heart was only focused on Balinese traditions, spirituality, and arts. When he met Jane, he knew he had found someone who not only respected but also admired these values. For Jane, her pull towards Bali was not just about romance. It was more about the sense of belonging she felt on the island. Prince Raka's proposal to Jane was straightforward. Unlike the grand Western-style engagements with diamond rings and elaborate gestures, Balinese proposals were traditionally about family discussions and spiritual acceptance. One would think this is a shabby method of proposal, but to the Balinese, it was their principle. Prince Raka, with his characteristic humility, asked Jane if she would spend her life with him, not just as husband and wife, but as an official part of the royal family, embracing a new way of life altogether. Jane agreed to his proposal, while being fully aware that the course of her life was about to be changed forever by bearing a new weight of responsibility. Getting married to a Balinese prince, especially one from the highly respected Ubud royal lineage, was a crucial matter. In Balinese culture, especially among noble families, marriage was seen as more than just a personal commitment. It was a union that affected social standing, religious obligations, and family heritage. Prince Raka was the youngest son of his father's 10th wife, and before they could proceed with the marriage rites, Prince Raka had to seek approval from his extended royal family and elders, which was a very crucial step because the Balinese royal marriages traditionally followed a hierarchical structure, with noble families often preferring to marry within their own class or other thriving status Balinese families. When the elders were approached, there was uncertainty and skepticism about Jane. Would she be able to fully embrace Balinese Hindu traditions? Would she be willing to take on the duties and responsibilities expected of a royal family member? And would she earn the respect of the Balinese people despite being a foreigner? These were some of the questions that Prince Raka was asked by the Council of Elders in his family when he made his intentions known to them. Jane, with her understanding of the importance of their concern, dedicated herself to proving her loyalty and commitment. She actively learned about Balinese customs, studied their language, and participated in all necessary ceremonies. She communicated to the elders with deep humility and respect, qualities highly valued in the Balinese culture. Through her genuine effort, the royal family gradually warmed up to her. They saw that her love for Prince Raka was not just a make-believe, but a dedication to the entirety of his world, traditions, and people. Eventually, she was granted permission to join the family as his wife. Now, with the family's blessing secured, the wedding preparations began in earnest. Jane's Australian passport was taken from her, and she had to be cleared by Interpol before the couple could wed. Balinese royal weddings are held as elaborate spiritual events that last for several days, with multiple rituals to ensure divine blessings. Before the wedding, Jane underwent a series of spiritual purification ceremonies. These rituals are performed by the Balinese Hindu priests and are meant to cleanse her from any past karma by preparing her for her new life as a Balinese princess. Though uncommon for an adult foreign bride, Jane willingly participated in this ritual, demonstrating her commitment to fully embracing Balinese customs. The wedding itself was a grand affair held at the Ubud Royal Palace. The ceremony was attended by Balinese elders, priests, other royal family members, and local villagers who came to witness the historic union. Jane wore traditional Balinese gold and silk kebabs, while Prince Raka was dressed in his royal ceremonial attire that symbolized his noble lineage. The couples presented offerings at the family temple, seeking the blessings of Sang Hyang Widhiwasa, the supreme god of their ancestors. A ritual procession through Ubud marked Jane's official transition into Balinese nobility. By the end of the ceremony, Jane was no longer just Jane Gillespie. She had become Princess Jero Asri Kirtiasa, an official member of the Ubud royal family. Jane quickly learned that being a Balinese princess was not about wealth and luxury, as some would anticipate, but about service, devotion, and cultural preservation. Life as a wife in a foreign land. As a young wife in a foreign land, Jane had to deal with some level of culture shock. For one, she had to get permission from the palace whenever she was going out. This was a strange thing, because her life in Australia was that of freedom, where she lived on her own terms. Remember, she was a kindergarten teacher. Her job allows her a considerable level of freedom that is not available in Bali. Gradually, she got used to it. Thankfully, she married for love, not for money or status. So, it was easy to adapt to the strange policies in the palace. Instead of viewing it as a kind of confinement, she saw it as her in-laws' way of protecting it. Another thing she had to get used to was not having basic amenities. When she got to the palace in the 70s, there was no running water or taps. This was a far cry from what was obtainable in Australia, where she grew up. However, it wasn't unbearable because there were servants who fetched water and made sure her life was relatively easy. Again, she didn't consider this as any kind of hardship because she was surrounded by love and, most importantly, her husband, Prince Raka. Jane watched every day as people swarmed the palace gate, waiting for her brother-in-law to dish advice on various topics. She, for the most part, found this fascinating because there was nothing of the sort in Australia. After a while, she was told that she would have to undergo a ritual where she would file her teeth. At first, this was shocking because she didn't have crooked teeth. However, her fears were allayed when they explained the procedure and its implications to her. In Bali, it's a rite of passage to file one's teeth after reaching a certain age. The usual teeth to file are the canines, and the reason for this is to suppress the effect of demons who could mistake one for monsters in the afterlife because of the pointedness. Now, that doesn't make any sense, but it's a thing with the Balinese culture, personal struggles, and recent life. As a couple from vastly different backgrounds, Prince Raka and Jane faced cultural adjustments. Jane had to adapt to royal duties, participate in temple ceremonies, and observe complex Hindu rituals. Meanwhile, Prince Raka had to get used to finding the balance between his modern love life and the expectations placed upon him by his family and society. Despite their love story being described as a fairy tale, their journey was not without its struggles that tested their resilience as a couple and a family. Being a Balinese prince meant Prince Raka was not just a husband, he was also a cultural and spiritual leader. His royal status carried significant responsibilities that included preserving the spiritual traditions of his ancestors and overseeing temple ceremonies and village rituals. Jane had always dreamed of her future with her husband, where she is loved and cherished. She wanted a family where there is trust and commitment. Although Prince Raka loved and cherished her, he was rarely around to nurture her feelings. On most days, Jane is left alone in their home while Prince Raka is out on one official assignment or another. Because of his dedication and commitment to his royal duties, he was forced to spend less time with her. This royal commitment often demanded long hours of ceremonial duties. Though Jane respected his role as the community head, she sometimes found it difficult to share her husband with the entire community. She had come from a culture where marriage was largely a private bond, whereas, in Bali, the royal family was more of a public institution. Jane learned that duty came before personal desires, and she had to adjust her expectations. One of the biggest struggles the couple faced was how to raise their children between two worlds, an Australian mother and a Balinese father. They wanted their children to understand and embrace their Balinese royal heritage, but also experience the freedom and modern education of Australia. This led to complex decisions like where their children would go to school. They had a hard time deciding if they should be raised primarily in Bali or Australia, and how they would balance their Balinese spiritual identity with Western individualism. The couple had to sacrifice the royal lifestyle to raise and educate their 3 children in Australia, and Prince Raka had no choice but to take menial jobs as a gardener and awaited to pay the bills. Once their children became adults, the family returned to Bali. Their children were now open to the modern lifestyle of Australia while still maintaining the Balinese culture. Their first son, Jokorda Bagus Kurtiasa, who grew up in Bali, learned to navigate both cultures perfectly. He participated in Balinese temple ceremonies and respected their royal traditions despite being exposed to Western education. At times, this created identity struggles as he was neither fully Balinese nor wholly Australian. Prince Raka and Jane worked hard to ensure that their children embraced and felt at home in both cultures, celebrating their mixed heritage rather than feeling torn between two worlds. As years passed, Prince Raka and Jane faced the natural challenge of aging. Prince Raka, having devoted his life to temple duties in storytelling and theater, started experiencing health complications in his later years. The physical demands of royal ceremonies and spiritual leadership became more difficult, and he began to slow down. Jane, as a devoted wife, took on more responsibilities, ensuring that her husband received the care and rest he needed. While she has always been involved in community and royal duties, she also became even more active in preserving their family legacy. Despite these challenges and setbacks, their love remained strong and unwavering. They continued to support each other through thick and thin. After many years, Jokorda Bagus, like his father, also embraced both Balinese and Western influences by marrying an Australian woman named Happy Salma. Happy was an actress and cultural enthusiast who has helped promote Balinese traditions in modern media. Through their children, the royal family's legacy remains alive. Now, in their later years, Prince Raka and Jane live a peaceful life in Ubud, spending time with their children and grandchildren by passing down stories, wisdom, and traditions. They remain active in spiritual and cultural events, though in a more advisory role. They enjoy the simple pleasures of Balinese village life, the morning temple prayers, storytelling sessions, and quiet moments surrounded by Bali's breathtaking nature. What do you think about Prince Raka and Jane's love story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.